way you're kind of turned towards me. But
all right.
John, thank you so much for joining us. It's not every day that we get to go to the Tennis Hall of Fame. We've been to the Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport plenty of times.
Yeah.
But here we are looking at, again, this is why Georgia's called the Mecca of college tennis, because this is where it originated. So John, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming. I wish we were at sort of our full glory, but after we've had to do some work after a water main broke, I think on Christmas night, when it was like way below freezing here, which we don't get a lot. And so it's been a long road kind of putting it all back together, but we're slowly making our way. And hopefully when the NCAA first and second round are here, will be open for business, at least enough so that people can come back in.
Absolutely. So hopefully we get to showcase this in a really good way. But John, how long have you been doing this for?
I took over as curator in 2014, about a year after Coach McGill passed away. I grew up about 200 yards above the courts here. I grew up playing on these courts. Coach McGill was like a grandfather. I ball boyed during the NCAAs. I've known like all of Georgia's players, since the mid 70s, basically. My brother Jack played for Manuel here at Georgia and was his assistant coach. So it was kind of a fitting thing for me to take over, because I have a lot of
college tennis knowledge.
I got a lot of college tennis knowledge up here, and it's been a fun experience, because every time I come in here, it's kind of reliving my childhood a bit.
I love that. And the first piece of history that we have to talk about is the racket that you're holding. It's, for those of you who don't know, this is, even though it's fairly misshapen, according to John, but this is just wear and tear from all the love it's been taken care of here at the Hall of Fame. So John, tell us what kind of racket this is.
Well, this is a red head, or that was what we always called it. I'll be honest, I don't know if it has a more official name.
That's fine.
I mainly remember it as the racket that Tim Mayotte, who was a phenomenal player at Stanford and then spent probably a decade in the top 10 in the world in the 80s. He used one of these and was well known for his serve. And I'm always fascinated, because the idea of being a really good tennis player using a head this small, I mean, the level of precision required is extraordinary. And we have hundreds of rackets in the Hall of Fame. I kind of randomly grabbed this one because
it just looks nice.
Now this looks weird, because clearly somebody got mad and slammed it.
That's how it broke. You can see the crack in the frame. Well, let's get started with the tour. Let's take a look at some of the awesome pieces that you have, because there's a lot of tennis history in here, besides the Bryan brothers, John Isner, even Kevin Anderson that we'll see later. And the first stop that we're going to see is John McEnroe's infamous photo, I have to say. This is our first stop, one of the infamous photos, and probably, and you were telling me earlier, one of the most irreplaceable photos in this museum. Can you tell us why that is? Because this is unbelievable. This
is John McEnroe in May of 1978, playing in the NCAA singles final against John Sadri of NC State. And John Sadri actually went on to a nice pro career as well, just not a McEnroe career. This was the third time ever that Georgia had hosted the NCAAs. And the crowd obviously is enormous, about 5,000 people. Back then in the finals of the singles, they played best 3 out of 5.
Wow.
And McEnroe won in 4 very close sets. And this is one of those, people come in and walk right up to it and point out where they are, or where their dad was, or granddad was. And this was in a lot of ways what started to put NCAA tournament here on the map, because it was McEnroe. He'd already, the summer before, made the semis of Wimbledon and was already essentially a top 10 in the world player, but
still playing in college.
He had signed with Dick Gould at Stanford and said he was coming, and then Gould gave him the fall off and was just like, be a college student for a while, even though everybody knew before the term one and done existed, everybody knew it wasn't like he was going to be there for 4 years.
Absolutely.
And and so Mac had a phenomenal 1 year. Elliot Telcher, who was a top 10 player in the world a few years later, was playing at UCLA at the time. And so they had some legendary battles. And I think McEnroe may have beat him during either the team or the singles because we have some photos, unfortunately not on the wall, they're just on my computer, of like McEnroe arguing at the net with Telcher because, well,
it's college tennis.
Tim McEnroe had a tendency to argue with everyone, despite being a brilliant player.
This, you said, is and I said irreplaceable.
Yes.
And you told me earlier because the negative of this photo can't be found. That
is correct. We have thousands of negatives of various things where there's just been some photographers that loved, and I'll credit Perry McIntyre, you're not gonna know who that is, but he
absolutely not. Sorry.
He donated like his entire tennis negative collection to the Hall of Fame. But we can't find this negative. We have a lot of photos of McEnroe playing in the NCAAs, but not this iconic one. And when we had the bad water main break at Christmas, that was kind of the first thought in my head was, okay, please let that be okay because we cannot replace that.
Absolutely.
And we also have McEnroe's racket and the scorecard. This is McEnroe's Jack Kramer Pro Staff, still maybe the most beautiful racket ever made, that McEnroe used in the finals against John Sadri, and he or Dick Gould donated it to the Hall of Fame afterwards. And here's the scorecard from the match that went 4 sets. I think McEnroe won 7-6 in the fourth. A million aces. It was tense. It was hot. It was great. And if you go on YouTube,
you can see McEnroe took the first to 7. So 7-6, 7-6, 5-7, 7-6 McEnroe. And he was a freshman at the time too.
Yeah, it was.
That's incredible.
He was a kid. As I say, he was 17 when he made the semis at Wimbledon, and then still kept his commitment and went to Stanford. And I mean, part of that was the legend of Dick Gould. And I could argue, I think, that he's the greatest college coach in any sport of all time with 17 team NCAA titles.
Oh yeah.
And out of I think 21 finals.
Yeah.
Which means when they got there, they won. But anyway, just a legendary match. And actually, speaking of YouTube, there's a great documentary. There's a great documentary that Bud Collins narrates.
Okay.
You can voice over later the name of When I Remember It.
Which is? Exactly.
Yeah. That features like 17 straight minutes of the 1978 NCAAs here. The name is just right there on the tip of my name.
It's all good.
That's like 17 minutes. There's, you see McEnroe acting like McEnroe at times and playing phenomenal tennis. It introduces you to John Sadri, who, we knew around here only because his sister actually played tennis for Georgia.
Oh, wow.
But her name's Susan, and she played tennis here kind of a little bit after he did. But it talks to Sadri, who, like when he wasn't on the court, was wearing a cowboy hat. It was a different time, but I highly recommend. And I'll send you the link to that because it's worth watching just as a moment in time. Plus, it's McEnroe and the NCAAs here, and it's a really cool find.
And the infamous godfather of college tennis, really.
Yeah.
Dan McGill, I mean, wouldn't be Georgia without him.
Right.
And how did this get here? When did this join the Hall of Fame?
This was put up for Coach McGill. I'm guessing this was right around the time that he retired after the 1988 season, after basically 30 years as head coach. And, Coach McGill wasn't the greatest college coach ever. Dick Gould was the greatest college coach ever, but I actually would say Coach McGill was the most important.
Essential.
Because he treated college tennis like it was college basketball or college football, that it was worthy of promotion and celebration, and he knew every bit of history and loved it as much as anybody's ever loved anything. And when he retired from coaching, and even technically before, I mean, he threw all his energy into the Hall of Fame. And, when he retired, it was a loss, but he was able to dedicate more time to this, which was good for the Hall of Fame.
So he spent more time here.
He did, and there was nothing like a Coach McGill tour of the Hall of Fame, just because he knew so many stories.
Yeah.
How many of them were 100% accurate? Who knows? But a good curator is a storyteller, and as my mom would say, you never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Oh, absolutely. we all know this. We all know the story. We've all basically watched it growing up for any generation at this point. But having the racket of Isner and Anderson be in this Hall of Fame, this has to be so special.
Yeah, this is great because, you know, they met in the semis of 2018 at Wimbledon, 11 years after they met in the finals of the NCAA team tournament here in 07 when Georgia beat Illinois. They met at #1 singles, and Isner won that match. That was Georgia's undefeated season. And the idea that two guys would still be playing pretty well 11 years later is extraordinary. Yeah. That they would meet in the semis of Wimbledon and play another epic last forever match, you know, is the odds of that are, you know, tiny. But and both of them were nice enough to donate rackets from that tournament. I don't know if these specific rackets were used in the semifinal match. I'm sure they went through a lot of them.
But still having the ability to have a racket that was in the bag.
Yeah.
And this one's even signed by Kevin Anderson. And
yes.
Isner just having his name and being a custom racket for him, just being here for the Hall of Fame is just another kind of amazing tidbit to have. And this really was college tennis in the mid-2000s. These two guys for Illinois and for Georgia.
Yeah, two great programs, two great players that probably neither imagined they'd ever have anything like the success they did. You know, Kevin retired last year around this time, I think.
Last year or the year before.
And we know John is not too far away.
Yeah.
He's playing some pickleball now, I've noticed, and some organized things.
We won't talk about that venture, but that's okay.
Yes, but you know, he hopefully has, you know, another few good years left. He's still like top 20 in the world in the doubles rankings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a thrill, and to see them out there, it was a privilege that they were kind enough to share with me. You know, some pieces of history from, you know, a great moment for college tennis because Mackie McDonald of UCLA, you know, was also in the round of 16 that year. And college tennis has enjoyed a great resurgence in the pros over the last decade. Just more and more guys, men and women, that are doing phenomenal things. And
of all levels, too. It's not just D1, D3, D2.
Yeah.
From John from France, who went to Lynn University, a lot of the doubles guys too, being Rajiv Ram, being probably one of the oldest #1s, going to Illinois, being Anderson's teammate as well. It's great. It's amazing to see the pathway that we've all seen them take and have success with.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, we're 20 years from when Ram, you know, and Brian Wilson and Amir Delic and those guys, you know, that undefeated Illinois team that won the team title here. Yeah. And Amir won the singles, and Wilson and Ram won the doubles, and we still have some of their stuff in here. I know we have one of Wilson's rackets, and that Ram was, you know, 6 months ago, I think, #1 in the world in doubles. It's like #3 right now, 20 years after winning an NCAA title. It's just phenomenal.
Just kind of rounding out what we've been doing and just the amount of contribution that Dan McGill has had to college tennis. And this photos and this picture, painting, one of those words is exactly what I'm looking for to describe
I knew you were going to get there.
I was going to get there. Tell us about this painting and kind of what's it all about, because this is unbelievable.
Yeah, the painting was commissioned right around the time Coach McGill turned 90. He had a huge 90th birthday celebration with like 1,000 people at the convention center in downtown, and this was commissioned. It's a Penley painting. He's a very acclaimed regional artist. There's lots of stuff like over in other Georgia athletic facilities and just tons of things. And like you have him there during the Marines during World War II, and you know, various poses of him coaching, and then
his team playing in the background too.
And you have the famous Georgia arches here. This is sort of these two kind of captured the best, I think, because that's kind of a famous photo that we have.
Yeah.
Just him up in the stands during a match. You know, he wasn't on the court that much. He would just stand up and shout, and but effectively, because they won a ton. And yeah, it's just kind of a nice look at McGill through the ages, and it's also that the McGill family was nice enough to donate to the Hall of Fame, and we're thrilled to have it because again, it's sort of him through the years, because he was an interesting guy who I think accomplished more in life than virtually anyone I've ever met. I mean, right up to the end, he was still writing columns for the local paper and loving the Hall of Fame in tennis. And yeah, just an extraordinary man and an extraordinary life. And just a small tidbit too, you're holding one of the, now, NCAA, and we're gonna move over a little bit over there as well. Right here, off a great transition, this is pretty cool. Not every day you get to see NCAA swag, really, because you get lanyards, you get the rep, you get everything that you do. But this is actually kind of cool because they're not being used anymore, because our generation just has big tennis bags, but NCAA branding tennis hats. Yes. This is from the very first NCAA Georgia ever hosted. Wow. 1972, the year I was born. And I think it's extraordinarily cool. You know, I can remember guys would put they would have these, but they'd also have, in terms of just head covers. Yeah. They put their keys and their wallet in them when they went to play. It was sort of a man purse, for lack of a better term. But it was cool. And, then the head covers, I don't know how long they printed these. We have this one, and we have this one from 1978, McEnroe's year. Well, I love the follow through. Yeah. That's amazing. And yeah, just a really cool thing. I mean, the beauty of Coach McGill, who, kind of a child of the Depression, you learn you never throw anything away. And McGill kept everything, sort of, for better or worse, because there'd be draws from some random tournament 45 years ago that we probably didn't need to keep, but we have somewhere here in the Hall of Fame. Yes, but just like this one, I absolutely love. I mean, you're like, it's the type thing I want to take home, except I can't because it belongs here. But it's that cool, and this one I love as well, and it's below a Archer S cover. And the NC State one that you have in the back over there too, I'll get a shot of later. That is, I love that branding, and I love the retro look that it has as well, kind of a cartoon wolf in that sense, which is amazing. But this has been quite the experience, John. I really do appreciate you having us. I mean, this is history. This is kind of the beginning of tennis for a lot of amazing careers, and we can't wait to see who else is going to be kind of in this Hall of Fame as of right now, with a lot of guys on tour, and a lot of people that still are recognized for their collegiate achievements. I can't wait to see them in this place, and we can't wait to be back. And is there anywhere people can follow this on social media or any platform to kind of get their history from? Sure. On Twitter, it's ITA at ITA Hall of Fame, which is just sort of the men's Hall of Fame Twitter feed now, but we're getting ready to just merge it with the women's, because there's no point in having two separate. Absolutely. I think we're going to do that with all social media, just because we're all celebrating the same things. Yes. And our website will be up and running at some point. There you go. We're only a decade behind on that, but we're going to get there. Because this is the 40th anniversary of the first class that was inducted. Wow. And in May, we're going to be inducting this year's class, which is headlined by the Bryan brothers. Love it. Finally retired. Finally. They are the very definition of first ballot, the Hall of Famers, after their great 2 years at Stanford. And another name a lot of people will know is Peter Smith, the former coach at USC, who won 5 NCAA titles and did a heck of a lot, and coached Steve Johnson to 2 NCAA singles titles and one of the greatest 72 match win streak to end his career, I believe. I don't think he lost a college match from junior year on. Yeah, I think it was the last 72. Yeah, and I think that I think he actually came back for his senior year mainly so that the team could get a fourth, not to, Hey, he did it and he won, so it's not. Nothing to complain about. For any tennis nerd, tennis historian, a tennis fan, tennis player, anything like that would
be in awe from what you guys have here. So we really do appreciate you having us, and we appreciate you guys for watching. If those of you that have gotten to the end of this video, please make sure you are subscribed to Tweener Head Tennis. Make sure to go check them out, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for watching.